are big performance improvements coming with 317. 317 is in PTU, and from lots of people's reports, there's been lots of posts on Reddit about performance getting better. There's been performance improvements, and often this happens every single PTU cycle. Somebody will say, "Oh, there's performance improvements," but on this occasion, I wonder if there actually is. I've done some testing, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I wonder if in areas out in space and where not much is going on, maybe some of the rest stops, where maybe this new streaming tech that CRG have popped into this build, into 317, I wonder if they've actually made some leaps forward in terms of performance. Let's get into the testing. So this testing has been done with my 12700KF, 3080 and 32 gigs of RAM. It's actually been done at 1080p just to make sure we're not GPU bottlenecked in some of these tests. First of all, I tried to do some city testing. I normally do my testing in Lawville, but Lawville is basically off the cards because 316 Lawville and 317 Lawville are completely different. We've got the new hospital, we've got all the new clouds, so there's no point comparing the two. I did some testing in Area 18, the plaza, but basically found no difference at all. But then, big difference when I then did a big quantum travel jump. This result, as you'll see here, that's a huge improvement. I've done a lot of testing on 316 and never seen anything like those frames with this system. Massive improvement. And why that is, we'll come to in a minute potentially, but initially that's a big test. I then also dropped out of quantum travel and did some just testing in space that I do. And again, big jump from 316. And you might say, well, maybe this is just the servers you're on. And yes, maybe that would be it. But the 317 server had 47 people on it, and the 316 server had 26 people on it. So in theory, it's not the servers. So what might be going on here? Well, it could be this new streaming tech. The streaming tech that CRG have had in the patch notes that have come with 317. We saw big problems when 317 first came to the PTU. Basically, nobody get into it. The game just wouldn't load in. And so something significant seems to be going on in the background with this tech. It could be that this is really improving performance in these areas, these kind of out in space areas, or maybe the rest stops, where there's nothing really around you. Maybe the streaming tech is more effective than it was previously. If you followed this journey of kind of the performance of Star Citizen for a while, you might remember that Ali Brown basically has talked about the fact that on their side, the graphics side, with the API, with Gen 12 render and Vulkan, that their side, the graphics team, that's their responsibility to get frames up and to basically unblock the render thread to allow that part of the CPU work to be done more efficiently. But he's also mentioned that that isn't the only bottleneck that's going on, and the main thread, the game logic, all the stuff that's going on is often a big problem. And my guess would be is that this streaming tech potentially has, in some of these areas that we're talking about here, doesn't look like the cities at all, but in some of these areas out there out in space where there's nothing going on, that the main thread has been slightly unblocked, for want of a better phrase. It looks as though that's what's going on. That could be it. But as always, this is the PTU, and what happens on the PTU doesn't necessarily stay on the on the game when it comes to live, because we just see this time and time again. People will report great performance in the PTU, and then when it gets to live, it just evaporated. It hasn't happened. What could be going on here? This is a theory, but I don't really think this is it. But what possibly could be happening is that of the 46 or 47 people on that server that I was on in 317 PTU, half of them may have just been looking at the river. And at the river, there's no AI going on. There's no game logic. There's no missions being spawned, and so potentially, it just meant that the server wasn't pushing that much, and our own clients weren't having to work through as many things as well. So that's one possibility, is that of the players that were playing on the PTU server, they weren't really playing the game as they would have been on the live server, where people will be running missions, they'll be doing bunker stuff, all sorts of things, and spread out across the whole server. Potentially on the PTU, people are much more concentrated in these new areas of interest. So might be looking at the new stuff in Lawville, they might be looking at the river, but there might be literally zero people on ArcCorp. That's a possibility, and that is why we're seeing more frames. That doesn't seem like it to me, but ultimately we'll have to go in and test this all with live and see really, is this going to stick, this change, because the PTU doesn't really mean anything when it comes to live ultimately. So that's enough of this one. I will see you soon. Bye.